Now, Ryan, what would you do if you were locked in the hotel and you had to torment guests? What would you do? I don't know if I'd kill them. I would kind of just,
Yeah,
do something.
I wouldn't become a serial killer like that quickly. I might just scare people. I think scaring, like pranks, but safe, like nice, kind pranks is a good thing to do. But nothing like that would really like send someone like off the deep end. Or I definitely wouldn't just become a mass murderer.
I would just play. I would have a boombox that plays Monster Mash over and over and over again in the next room over, and see how that goes.
Caught in a bad romance.
All right, Greg, so this episode opens up with a flashback in Los Angeles in 1926, and once again, we are reintroduced to one of the most iconic locations in American Horror Story, that is, of course, the murder house.
That's right, we're checking back in with Charles Montgomery and the Montgomerys. So he's the only one in this episode. I wish we got a Lily Rabe scene, but obviously that wouldn't make any sense for her to just pop up for 4 seconds.
Yeah.
So with that said, we know why. Just because it's Charles Montgomery, you kind of know, if you know anything about season 1, then you know why the Countess is there.
That's right. Charles Montgomery, as we know from season 1, he is performing abortions kind of under the radar at his own home. He has a nurse there as well, of course, and he's also abusing some of his own drugs used in surgery. He kind of takes a couple hits here and there, so we know that he's kind of headed off the deep end, and we know how bad that ends for him from Murder House.
Yep.
A funny little note here is that Elizabeth says that she was given her information from a friend of hers, Margaret Gibson, who was, in fact, a real-life actress during this time period, a nice little tie-in with real life, what was going on in real life here in Hollywood. Gibson actually appeared in 147 movies between 1913 and 1929.
Damn.
That's a lot of movies, Greg, obviously. But we get some context into Elizabeth Johnson, right? Like she spent a lot of time in these Hollywood circles, actors and actresses, producers, directors, filmmakers, all that kind of stuff. So she's in the know. She's kind of in like the upper society in Los Angeles. And also, as she reveals, she is 3 weeks pregnant, Greg. But these 3 weeks, it looks a lot different on her.
Antichrist kind of baby. Yep, it's that Antichrist stuff.
It's that Michael Langdon type of baby growing inside of you. So immediately you're like, uh-oh, this is not good.
Now, one thing to take of note is that the nurse points out that she's at 75 degrees, the Countess, so that means she's already been turned at this point into a vampire.
Yeah.
Now, as we said earlier, that Charles, he's been abusing his own drugs, so I'm assuming that went into play when after they finish the procedure and the nurse is meant to go, dispose of whatever's left. Unfortunately, it seems that baby, it's still kicking. So she looks down at it, and it just grabs her, and it goes after her. And I'm just looking at him like, wait, what is Charles doing here? He's standing there the whole time. I'm guessing he's high as hell at this point, because he doesn't move, and she's dead at this point.
Yeah, you're right, dude. That was a pretty weird reaction on his part. Like, it's almost like he's seen it before, right? Like, he wasn't that freaked out by it. He was kind of more in utter amazement of what he was watching, and like letting his poor nurse just get murdered in front of him.
He was high as a kite. And overall, the Countess wakes up, and unfortunately, I guess for her, Charles says, "Congratulations, you're a mother. Here you go. Here's your baby. There you go." And the episode kicks off from there.
Great, a vampire baby, just what we needed.
Yep.
Congratulations. It's a boy.
Now we head back to John Lowe, who's, I don't know why, Greg, but he's still staying in Hotel Cortez. He wakes up, and in the bed next to him is Holden. He goes down to chase Holden, and then he stumbles upon the swimming pool full of vampire caskets, and he sees his ex-wife, wife, but they're in the process of getting a divorce, and Holden sleeping in one of the caskets. I mean, your reaction if you see this? I run away immediately. I pinch myself.
I have no idea what I do there, but it might be the exact same that John did, which he just passes out.
Yeah.
Now from there, cue Depeche Mode, One Caress, and we see that Liz and Tristan have hooked up. All right.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I didn't see this one coming at all. I don't think that I didn't see any like flirtatious vibes between the two.
I don't think so.
In previous episodes. The last we saw, Tristan and the Countess were like leaving for like a party, right? in the lobby, and they came across Iris and Liz. But to find these two hooking up, the hotel brings people together from all over. So and it was actually a pretty like genuine and sincere and affecting scene with these two actors.
Yep. A lot of foreshadowing and foreboding, and it's not going to end well.
Yeah, Liz says as much, and as soon as you hear that, you know that like one of them is going to die at some point.
Yeah.
And I know this doesn't end well, and it shouldn't. Not after what I'd done to the Countess.
And on that note, everybody's screwing in this episode. So now we have Will Drake and the Countess, because Countess, remember, she has a motive here. She's trying to make that money. So She's with Will Drake, and she's trying to set this up. And so she has to hit up Tristan, who's starting to grow in love with Liz. But remember, he's with Countess forever, no matter what.
Yeah.
So she needs his help here to help out with Will Drake in a little bit of a thrice.
Yeah, interesting power dynamic here too. Like whatever the Countess says, it gets done. Like even against someone else's wishes. Like Tristan does not want to join for the threesome upstairs, but he has no choice. No. She's the Countess, and basically she turned him, right? She made him, so she doesn't care what his opinion is. Like he is at her beck and call, so he has to partake in whatever she wants done. And number one priority on her mind, like you mentioned, she wants that money.
Yep. She's like, oh no, dude, I just turned you into a vampire and we live forever. So I own you for at least like 50 years. And then we can talk about anything else after that.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Greg, let's talk about Alex Lowe, who very quickly here turns into a rather evil and manipulative ex-wife. She kind of orchestrates this whole thing to make John Lowe seem like he's gone in completely insane off the deep end. So she kind of starts using people and turning people against him and kind of wanting to prove that he is mad, therefore letting her have Holden all to herself for eternity, right?
Yeah, she doesn't want John to blow this whole thing up by bringing the cops in or doing whatever he can to find Holden and having another issue with her, becoming a vampire now. So she decides the best move is to, find some paddy wagons and have John sent away at the end of the day. This is horrible. This is everybody in this show except for Liz, and I guess you could count the Countess until, the end, are just horrible people. These people are awful. I mean, you wouldn't want to hang out if you talk to anybody in this hotel for more than 10 minutes, your mind would be racing like, I got to get the hell out of here quickly, unless it's Liz. Other than Liz, you got to get the hell out.
And speaking of Liz, she has a very funny little reference here to a 2005 movie, Nanny McPhee. I haven't seen Nanny McPhee, but I think it's a British rom-com. Any good?
It's okay. Yeah, it's just it's a kid's it's not even a rom-com. I don't think I would count it as
like
that.
A Mary Poppins type vibe.
It's straight up Mary Poppins. That's it. It's fine.
Got you. Yeah, she has a fun little line here about Nanny McPhee to Alex.
There's a broom and a dustpan in the cleaning closet, Nanny McPhee. We got to get rid of those coffins.
So specifically, here's what Alex does off the top. She basically drugs John, and then she hides any evidence of the caskets, the vampire caskets, where everyone was lovingly, asleep, all the children and her son Holden, and then she brings them back down there to prove to him that there was nothing down there at all, and that it's all part of his visions. She tells him that she found him in the hallway, and then she had to bring him back to bed, and that he's just kind of been all over the place. So she's basically just effing with John this whole time.
And so what do? They have to... Okay, so what did they do, those caskets? Did they actually break them?
Yeah, Greg. Liz and Alex went pretty, they just went, Office Space on those caskets.
So we finally head over to room 33, and the Countess is in there with her child, Bartholomew. And she tells him that she's going to go make that money. So she's going to go on a trip with Will Drake, where, her long con is to stick with him so she can get his money at some point.
Yeah, before you steal all of his money, Greg, you got to go on a few trips with him, right? I mean,
of course.
You got in order to marry the guy, you got to travel a little bit, go out of the country. and then he'll be more receptive to maybe a marriage, and then you just steal all of his money.
Meanwhile, Ramona and Donovan show up at the hotel, of course. Their plan, or at least Ramona's plan, to go stab those kids, or at least one of them. She's looking for Countess's children to take them out for her revenge. And Donovan's like, okay, you do that. I'm going to go handle some other stuff while you take care of that.
Yeah, there's clearly a distinction between the two motivations here, right? One, Donovan is still pretty much hurt by the Countess and kind of wants to approach her and challenge her one-on-one, and he kind of misses the life at the Hotel Cortez, so he goes straight up to the top floor to the penthouse, where he has visions of all those hookups that he had with her, probably.
So he goes to smell her. So he smells her drawers. Okay, cool.
So he smells her underwear. I mean, weird dude, whatever. Meanwhile, Ramona, goes down to the swimming pools as well and wants to kill all the vampires, like you mentioned. Who also shows up there is Iris, is Donovan's mom. So
she's packing.
They're both committed to it. Yeah, they're ready. She's ready to kill. I was kind of shocked by how quick she was to kind of join the cause and just become this full-blown killer, especially killing the vampire kids that she's kind of taken. She spent some time helping them and raising them.
Yeah, with that said, we got a quick scene of the death of Darren Criss again. So they managed to put that in there one more time. Obviously, it makes sense. They put it in there because there's another scene later on where they have to explain the rules of the hotel and how the ghosts are walking among us. So it was a good way to do that. I liked it. It's a great quick line that explains one scene there, and then it comes back and it's a payoff for a scene later on. Dig it.
How hard is it to get some goddamn kale around here?
Now, speaking of the rules of the hotel, how we get those rules is through Donovan. While he's mid-sniff in the Countess's underwear, we get the Swedish Tourists pop back up. Obviously, they were murdered some episodes back. And they're kind of lost. They even said the place is a maze. They want to get out. They're still looking to go to some of the, their first time in LA. They want to go check out all the sites, and they name drop Vin Diesel. Well, they name drop Fast and the Furious Supercharged, which is an attraction at Universal Studios. Greg, I haven't been to this. Have you ever been to this?
No, I have not, but I have a feeling maybe Chris, I have a feeling our editor, Chris, he might have been there. I want to ask him about that at some point, but right now, I don't think I'll be going to any of those.
Yeah, same here. But it was a funny little joke, a little nod. Donovan says, sorry, you're not going to be watching Vin Diesel in 3D anytime soon. Basically, you're stuck in this loop.
You're never going to see Vin Diesel in 3D.
And what it boils down to is they can't leave the hotel, and it's more or less just, hey, you might as well kill some time here and kill some people, literally, and just not kind of sulk about you now becoming a ghost and stuck inside the property, right? You just kind of have to find a purpose, and either it be murdering people or doing drugs or partying or having sex, whatever it might be. You kind of have to find a purpose, a value in that purpose and in that act.
Yep, this is AHS, so it's usually murder. You have to start killing people. We saw this again in 1984, the same theme where you're in a loop, and once you figure out you're in that loop, you got to do something, and it's usually murder. Before we move on, I want to point out the stuff about Kara and the flashback we get. Now, I love that shot of her emerging from the bathtub after she kills herself months later.
Yeah.
That's a great shot. Love it. And with that said, I also love the line of dialogue that Miss Evers gives. She's having so much fun with this character, and this line right here is awesome.
I love the bouquet of rotting flesh.
And Greg, Kara is a perfect example of someone who committed suicide, died inside the hotel, and then found purpose. The strange thing is that she was an elementary teacher and had a lot of love for the kids that she taught, but then she spends her purpose in the hotel was just to torment people and scare them to death. And basically, they said don't drink any of the water on the 5th floor because her body was decomposed in the water, which is disgusting to even think about. But she also used to spend some time in the swimming pool area when there was water in there, and probably just maybe killed a whole bunch of people, scared the living hell out of a whole bunch of people. But I can only imagine the horrors that she was, a part of in the Hotel Cortez back after she died.
Meanwhile, Ramona is sticking to her plan. She's looking for these kids, so she goes to room 33 to find Bartholomew and stab him. Unfortunately, he's not there. He's quick.
Greg, it's never that easy to kill, even if you think you're gonna like kill like a small animal, small creature, a small baby. Like, it's a vampire baby. Like, Ramona, it's not going to be that easy to kill it. You can't just go in there and, baby. Like,
No.
it's not going to work. It's not going to work
You
like
need to be
that.
set up like Ash from Evil Dead. You got to have everything ready. You got to have night vision goggles, everything. When you're trying to go to something like this in AHS canon, no, you got to be prepared.
I really enjoyed, speaking of the sequence, I really enjoyed the POV shots that we get here and then we get later on in this episode from Bartholomew's point of view when he's like, yeah, you know, we've seen this horror trope countless times with other type of creatures and small kids, and but it was cool to kind of get that perspective throughout the episode. It's almost like they desaturated some of the shots when it was his point of view, and they kind of distorted the camera. The lenses were kind of distortion on the lenses as well to kind of show that, hey, you know, it's a child and he's kind of stuck, despite being a vampire child, he's stuck in this kind of eternal youth forever. And apparently when babies are born, they actually don't have
vision.
They're colorblind in the beginning of their life, right? So a cool little effect to make it feel like, hey, this is a savage baby, part vampire that is kind of forever like this.
When it comes to POVs and this trope, I will never, ever, ever forget any of the POV shots or anything that involves arachnophobia. That film is terrifying.
Oh, wow. Great movie.
Amazing.
Great movie. Yeah, that's so
never
terrifying.
touch it. Don't remake it. Don't do anything. If they do anything, just
Please
do a
don't.
4K restoration, so that way it will just scare the hell out of everyone even more. That's all they got to do. That movie is amazing and terrifying, just for what they did with just a tiny little spider that you can step on, and it's just absolutely terrifying the way they shot it with the camera.
Now, of course, Ramona does not kill Bartholomew. He actually escapes. He attacks her. She doesn't die, though. She's kind of taking care of her wounds afterwards at the bar with Liz. But the episode now turns into a fun kind of game of hide and seek, and it has your various characters on the look for Bartholomew, right? Because you kind of need to find him before the Countess comes back home, or else then it's major
All hell
trouble.
will break loose.
So all hell will break loose. And I like how, like, kind of everyone, we kind of see moments with every character kind of trying their best to kind of hunt him down and find him. It's like a little game of hide and seek. You see Liz even like leave the door open and put some food on the ground. Clearly, they've been taking care of this kid for years, right? But it was a fun little sequence and how the episode kind of turns more into like a hunt for this child.
Meanwhile, the Swedes find their purpose with Mr. Wu. He shows up at the hotel. They're walking down the hallway, and they lure him in, or at least one of them does at the moment. So they're going at it, and then the other one shows up. And he thinks, okay, of course, I'm being set up here. I want to stop all of this. And of course, it's time for blood. And they deliver one of the funniest lines ever. When he gets out of that room after they stab him in the bathroom, immediately you hear one of them scream Fast and Furious and jump on his back. This whole scene is ridiculous, and I love it. It's pure camp.
Fast and Furious!
Next up, we're back with John, and he somehow, Greg, gets onto a crime scene in a church. I don't know how. He says he has a police scanner. I don't know who's like watching at these crime scenes for like delusional ex-cops that shouldn't be there, but he gets into the premises and he sees kind of what's going on, and you know, thou shalt not take the Lord's name in vain. So he thinks that he's vital to the case here still, and he should be involved, and he shouldn't have lost his job. But they have someone in custody.
Yeah, and I love the body horror here with just these coins, a bunch of coins, and the big belly, and the intestines sticking out. Oh, I wish they could stay on that scene just a little bit longer to give a shout out to the props department and everyone who worked on that, because that's awesome. It's only on screen for maybe a few seconds.
Yeah, my first reaction after this was, it gives me those vibes of the movie Seven, obviously, with all the the 7 deadly sins and having all the gluttonous body parts everywhere and just disgusting, but like you said, it's very good makeup and set dressing here. But I was wondering who the hell would they have in custody? That someone came forward, or they got someone connected to these murders. My reaction was, who else could there be out there that was actually responsible for this? And I thought maybe someone had, like, James March had a part in like setting someone up, or framing someone to kind of keep the heat off of the Hotel Cortez itself.
Or an AHS cannon. They're like, no, it's Kit Walker. We found him. We brought him back to Earth and and we put him back in prison.
It was the aliens and Kit Walker. Nah, just stay away from Kit Walker. He's the nicest person ever on American Horror Story.
Why don't I help you to your room? Get to bed. No telling what kinds of undesirables you're going to run into out in the halls.
So at this point, John goes back to the hotel, stumbles around the hallway, sees Liz, he gets drunk, and he ends up with the Swedish chicks. Okay.
Yes, he does. They there's lots of blood in this episode, Greg, and this scene in particular, it gets a little nasty. I didn't know whose blood it was. Like we hear that asked later.
It's coming out of the girl's eyes. You can see it going out of the girl's eyes and mouth.
Of course.
But then it looks like it's just the hose is on John and it's going everywhere. A lot of blood play for this scene. It's gnarly.
So the key here is that Alex sets them up to go to John, right, and kind of to mess with him. Another one of Alex's just conniving, horrible, orchestrated, manipulative things that she's doing to John. But I guess that they can mentally mess with him too. So are we to think that that's not true, real blood? Like they're kind of just making that happen to make it look like it's blood, or what's going on there? Do we know? I
don't know. It's the hotel messing with them. I think it obviously came from the girls, but how it happens, I don't know. Not yet, at least.
And then they go back and then they shower up and they walk, or they go into the bathroom, they clean up, they walk out and they're completely there's no blood on them. But I mean, whatever. We also see James March pop in and Miss Evers pop in. Everyone pops into the room while he's in there. He's kind of freaking out, like what's going on. He brings. He's looking for help. He doesn't know whose blood this is in the beginning, and they all kind of just mess with him. So he, at this point,
he's going off the deep end.
We know that it's not. Yeah, he went off the deep end, but at this point, we know that it's not all in his head. That the hotel itself is literally messing with him.
Yeah.
Good to see you're finally, truly checking in to the Hotel Cortez.
And to top it all off, Greg, Bartholomew actually scrambles into the room while John is showering, and you can see his little point of view. He walks up, doesn't want to attack him, but goes into his luggage. I guess he has the foresight to know that John's going to be leaving soon, and he wants to get out of the hotel. So little Bartholomew gets into his luggage and then gets packed up. And John leaves the hotel.
Now, I love the little, there's just like a sound effect that it reminds me of, it will always remind me of the Seinfeld episode with Mr. Marbles.
Is somebody there? Mr. Marbles?
So John goes home to visit Scarlett, and, you think he's just going to have a nice night. They watch a movie together, some popcorn. No, the first thing that happens is, Scarlett notices a bunch of blood on on one of his shirts or something. He's popped out, so he has to hide that from her. And while she's watching cartoons, I don't know what that cartoon is. Do you? If anyone knows,
I don't know.
If anyone knows what it is, let me know. I don't know if it's just something in canon for AHS, if they just found some generic cartoon footage or whatever, but I couldn't spot it. It looks so familiar though. Now, but back to Scarlett. She's watching cartoons, and you can see the little shadow of Bartholomew walk by.
I love this. Yeah.
He's creeping in the background somewhere.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of, we've all seen The Leprechaun, the horror movie, that is kind of a little bit comedic as well, but it reminded me of a small little, we've seen in countless horror movies, but, small statured monsters, or in this case, a baby, running back and forth. All you see is the shadow lurking behind there, and
I hate that.
He runs into the kitchen. Yeah, it's pretty scary. A horror trope you've seen a bunch of times, but he runs into there, and then he literally sees the monster in front of him. He sees Bartholomew, and then he starts just firing live rounds into the thing. So just
why?
I have a couple questions here. Your daughter's right next to you. Why not give a heads up? Don't scare the living hell out of her. But also, too, if you're a cop and you're gonna shoot that close in the kitchen, you got to kill the thing, Greg. I mean, how bad of a shot are you if you can't kill the thing?
I guess he takes his eyes off of it. Scarlett screams, as you would when someone fires rounds in your house, and when you don't notice that's going to happen. So the poor girl, runs to the room. He turns back, and yes, of course, it's a horror story. So Bartholomew's gone. Back with the Countess, she returns home with Will Drake from Paris, and Liz wants to talk to her for a second about Tristan. She just, she's being honest with her, and she wants Tristan's hand, kind of thing. She wants to be with Tristan, so she's trying to see if, the Countess will let him go. Oof.
Yeah, she kind of wants the Countess's blessing, but from what we already kind of know, it's not going to go well, right? So it's kind of interesting that Liz feels comfortable enough to bring it up, but kind of knows probably deep down inside that the Countess is not going to easily give up on Tristan. It's like one of her latest infatuations. Clearly she goes through many of these men and women throughout her life, but she's not going to just let go of Tristan and give it to Liz, despite Liz's wishes. I found it interesting though that the first thing that initially I thought that Liz was going to say, hey, something I have to admit, your baby's missing out of the hotel.
Nope.
Instead of saying that, she says that, hey, I want a date. I want Tristan's hand. I want to have him. I'm in love with him. It's been a few weeks. Instead of saying, hey, your baby might be missing, I'm concerned, what should we do?
Nope.
Coming clean about it. Interesting that she decided to kind of, put her interests first before maybe the Countess herself.
At the same time, too, maybe she didn't want to get slapped. So she's thinking, okay, let me, we're still working on this. We're looking for the kid. We're going to find him. Don't worry about that. She's not going to say anything about that just yet. They're still on the hunt.
We still have a few more. Yeah, we have 10 more minutes to get the baby back. It's not that big of a deal. Yeah.
I don't want to get tossed out of a window. So let me just shut up about this for a second. Find the kid. But by the way, hey, I want to date your lover. Sorry.
You measure decades by the changes in hemlines. It means nothing to you. You know as well as anyone that we all just get one great one in our lives.
Now, back at the Lowe residence, the cops show up, and basically everyone there, believes John has just gone completely off the deep end, as we said. I feel like we've said off the deep end a ton in this breakdown.
Yeah.
But that's what that's what's happening to John. He's gone mad, according to everyone else around him, because they're not seeing what he's seeing and what he's experiencing. Alex shows up, basically there to support the cops in their analysis of the situation.
Yeah.
He says he saw a monster. He shot a live gun. His child was in the same room as him. I mean, all these cause a whole bunch of causes for concern. So they take him. They take the child. They get rid of him, and then Alex is like, "Hey, I think that he was telling the truth." And lo and behold, lucky Alex, she tracks down and finds Bartholomew. I don't know how it was so easy for her to find this vampire baby.
She's a vampire. She has
a sense?
Yeah, I think
Okay,
she
okay.
probably can even smell him. That might be something like that. Where
She can smell him
Yeah.
and maybe hear the heartbeat.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I think it's just because of her vampire new skills. That's all.
Yeah, she has his radar, a vampire radar. She can tell exactly where the vampires are. So, lucky for the Countess, Alex, finds the baby in time to bring him home to the Countess. The Countess, we'll move ahead right here, and the Countess kind of comes into his room and finds Alex holding her son. And, she kind of comes clean and says, hey, he was hurt, he was injured badly, but I took care of it, don't worry about it. I feel that this part right here, this is when the Countess truly, genuinely cared for Alex and trusted Alex, right?
Yeah. She was the one who brought her baby, and she took care of it. She knows she can be the governess of this whole place. So it's working out. But I think Alex probably should tell her right after that what they did to the caskets. She should have said that right then and there. Oh, by the way, there's an issue with the caskets, and we'll take care of that later.
Yeah, we need a new sleeping area. By the way, all your kids, they don't have beds anymore. Let's fix that.
It's all good.
You saved my son. You saved mine.
While we wrap up the story of Bartholomew here, Greg, for this episode, what did you think of, we get a final shot of what he looks like. What'd you think of how they made him look, this vampire baby?
It reminds me of the same child from AHS, the first season for Murder House.
Yeah.
So I saw it coming. But what were you saying? You said it reminds you of like Predator. It's like a Predator baby.
Yeah, it kind of looked like a little like a baby predator. No, with the mandible that kind of fans out a little bit.
Yeah, I can see it. I like how the shot for it was like a couple milliseconds because it's like the Jaws.
It's really quick.
It's the Jaws effect. You don't want to hold on to it too long, so it starts to look fake. So you gotta only have it for a few scenes, a few just frames, and then boom, you're out. It's all good.
Good point. That's a good point. The less that you show of the monster, the scarier it actually is. I like how earlier in the episode you see only his eye. In the reflection of Ramona Royale in his eye, and it's just like a black eye, and it looks just completely doesn't look like human, doesn't look like alien. It looks like something a whole nother realm. Super creepy. So I think they did a terrific job in the design of this monster, but also the POV shots really helped out a ton here.
Amazing horror tropes and I guess just honoring horror. It follows all the rules of horror when it comes to your monsters. They nailed it.
Welcome home.
Sit, love. Who needs a drink?
Okay, so let's wrap this up with Liz, Tristan, and the Countess. They're having one final convo together where, they're just breaking it down where Tristan and Liz, they want to be together and they'll do whatever it takes to do it. Apparently, the Countess decides, you know what? Sure, you want to do it? That's fine. Her heart's been broken. This is a theme for her too, where she just feels like everyone's leaving her. And we're going to get more of this too in the future episodes, where she just thinks like this is just a circle where it's my life and everyone else is just a player in it. And at this point, she can do whatever she wants. She's a vampire. She lives forever. Unfortunately for Tristan, because since he's new to this whole vampire thing and thinking of what's in Liz's mind at the moment of how she thinks, we're going to be together forever, him and me. But the thing is, Tristan, from what we know of Tristan already from the past episodes, it's unlikely this relationship sticks for a very long time. And so the Countess knows this. She's looking into the future, and she doesn't want Tristan out there in the world doing whatever he's going to do as a vampire and causing trouble. Unfortunately, it ends with a heartbreaking scene where she just slits his throat in front of Liz. This probably could have been done and handled a little bit more gracefully, but here we are. It's American Horror Story.
Yeah, there was a heartbreaking moment because of the connection that across the Dennis O'Hare steals this episode, if not the last few episodes, if not the whole season of this show.
Easily.
And the scenes with him and Finn Wittrock were very touching and very heartwarming. And but we learn a lot about the Countess in this moment, that she feels betrayed. She has a problem with people leaving her in the past and kind of just abandoning her.
She flips that Monopoly board every time. Anytime something happens to her, she just immediately flips the board and leaves the room.
Yeah.
Yikes.
She has an endless life, eternal life, and some of the pieces that she's seen have come and gone so swiftly from her. So she has a hard time letting go and not being in full control of that board, and always having her hands on everything and kind of overseeing everything. So she couldn't live with that, and it was hard to kind of for her to deal with it. This whole scene, I don't know about you, Greg, but I was tense the whole time. Even when you think it might be okay, when you think maybe she'll let him live, maybe for just one more episode, you kind of had this sense of dread the whole time watching the sequence.
You knew. You kind of feel, I was like, someone's going to get it in this scene, and I don't know if it's going to be Liz. And with that said, here's a fun fact. Well, not so much a fun fact for the costume designing team, but costume designer Lou Eyrick told them that that green dress that she's wearing, when she slits Tristan's throat, blood goes everywhere and it gets all over the dress. Awesome. Unfortunately, they needed that dress the next day for shooting continuity for that scene where she's walking out with the same dress. So overnight, the team had to get together and hand wash that dress apparently overnight and try to get it ready for the next day to shoot again. So there was still apparently maybe some stains on it. So Lou Eyrick said that they just took a black fur and covered it. So you'll see in a few scenes prior, you'll notice that she's wearing like a black fur. That's because of the scene prior with Tristan and Finn Whitrock, where that blood went everywhere. So they had to clean it up and they just hit it. It's awesome.
That's incredible. I mean, that's like one small example of how much hard work is done behind the scenes on all of these shows and movies that we watch. And it makes you care deeply about the people that actually I come from, like a perspective. My dad, I've told you before, works in props for his career in the film business. So getting to hear these stories and that example that you just shared of people, in order to keep the viewing experience as high quality as possible, it makes it that much more sweeter when we get to hear what goes into it. This episode overall, I thought it was fun. I thought it was cool to kind of get a perspective of the Countess that we hadn't seen yet. Her as a actual physical maternal a mother of her own child. And moving forward, it feels like the grip that she's gonna have on the hotel and the people in that hotel are gonna get tighter and tighter. And there are a few more targets on the board that are going to probably come off the board rather quickly here.
We'll see how this goes. John, look out. Everybody, we'll see you back here very soon next week for episode 7. Until then, have a good week. Bye-bye.
Later, guys.